This is the one that we're going to be testing on backtesting. And how you do that is you load up your chart, you make sure you turn off auto scroll, and then you can either click and drag on the chart back into history, or you can use your mouse wheel and you can scroll down and it'll drag you back into history. The best thing is to keep scrolling back and stop looking at your monitor so you don't get any ideas of which direction you should be trading in. And once you're happy with how far you've gone back into history, like here we go, we've gone back a couple months already. Let's go for a few more. And then you stop at some random place. So now you have a look at the far right of the screen and you start making a decision. Now keep in mind with backtesting, we have two things that are working against us. First of all, we can't check the news. Well, you can, but it would take a very long time, so we don't really bother. We figure that if we can trade successfully without knowing what news events are coming out, then you will do even better when you do have a news event. So it's kind of like jumping into the deep end of a swimming pool instead of wading in the shallow end first. The other thing we have against us is that it's not easy for us to quickly check on the 1 hour or 4 hour for the bigger picture, because that means that we would lose our place in the backtesting. So once again, if you are able to make a profit with that working against you, then you'll do amazingly well when you do have that information. So now we've gone back into a currency pair and we have everything good to go. You look on your keyboard and you find the F12 key, and every time you press F12, it'll move the charts forward one candle at a time. So we go and we start pressing F12 and we look for a crossover. You see we had a very slight crossover there, but it wasn't really good, so I'm not going to use that one. At this point, it's pretty much dancing around the MA50, so I can't use that to help determine a direction. It's just simply too close. So we kind of needed to move away. And that's a news candle. Here we have a short crossover. You can see how the red line has gone below the blue line. And the market has moved below the MA50, but these moving averages haven't yet. Stochastics was overbought, but that doesn't really matter. We can actually use that to say that this is a point where we expect the market to start turning down. The market is pointing in the right direction. So the only thing that's really making me nervous about this trade is the fact that the market had been dancing around the MA50 an awful lot. And even though the market itself has gone below the MA50, we don't have our moving averages below yet. But just in the interest of placing a demo trade, so I can show you how we do some backtesting, I'm going to take this one. What we do is we go ahead and we start grabbing price labels. We're making our decision at this time here, so I'm going to put a price label at about the level that we would have entered. Then we need to put in a level where we would have our stop loss, which would be just above these candles here. And then we can measure that. Now we can see that this would be a very big stop loss. This would be 55 pips. So if you're risking $50, you'd be trading less than $1 per pip. So in order for us to make that much profit, we'd have to see the market come all the way down to here. And that's a fairly big movement on the 30-minute chart. So once again, we would probably not be taking this trade, but just to show you how backtesting works, we'll have a look. So our take profit was about there, and we go ahead and we put in an arrow just to confirm that we are selling. Now it's important to put the price levels in because it stops you from cheating yourself. Now you press F12 again and you start seeing what's happening. And we were right, that wasn't a very good place, but it is working out. And every time you press F12, you can start making a decision. So I'm looking at this now. The stochastic is still looking good. The MACD has gone negative, which is good. it doesn't quite look like we got a new crossover, but it is kissing and it'll probably break out again. So we'll hold this trade. We're losing a bit of our profit. We're at nearly break even now, in a little bit more profit. And we start seeing that stochastic is going into oversold. I'm going to give it one more candle. Okay, we're in oversold, which is telling us that it's not a good time to enter, but it also doesn't mean get out of the trade. So let's see what happens again with the next one. Okay, it's starting to regain, but that's very small. Alright, so let's make another decision here. This was our entry price. We are sitting with about 26 pips profit, so that's about halfway to our profit zone. Now, if anything starts making you feel nervous about this, try and think of it as though you're doing it in real time. If you're watching this with real money, you're in decent profit, but we do have stochastics going into oversold territory here. So this is what I would do in real life with a real account. I would close half of my trade, so I bank at least some money. Then I take my stop loss and I'd move it to my entry point. So if the market reverses, the second half of the trade will close at break even. Now this means that I'm now in a riskless trade. I cannot lose. I banked a couple bucks, not a lot, but you know, it's a couple bucks, and the rest of the trade I can't lose any money on it. So I'll be greedy and I'll move my stop loss down, and now I'll see what happens. We're still in, it hasn't come up yet. We even have a new short crossover that formed. Stochastic has gone into oversold again. In fact, it did recently as well. But we'll hold this. We can't lose money, and I wouldn't mind squeezing out a bit more. Right, the moving averages have moved up to the MA50, but MA50 is still curving down. Next time this leaves, yeah. Now we've seen that the market has moved above the MA50, the moving averages have as well. We had stochastic going to oversold territory and it's leaving, which is indicating it's going to be returning. And you know what, if we look at the amount of pips that this is, we're looking at nearly 40, so that wouldn't be a bad place for us to close the trade. So I'm going to say we'd close it, and I'll just leave a little check sign to say that this trade did work out. I'll put this back to where it originally was. And now when I go and I look into history over all of my demo trading, I'll see that that's great. We opened it here at 1, and that's the point that we ended up closing it. You can go on and keep clicking. Here we have a possible buy position, but again, this is too close to the MA50. It's just been dancing around. It's hard to pick up a clear direction from this. But everything else, yeah, the MACD is negative. Stochastic is going up, but it's not overbought, so that would be fine. But no, I don't feel comfortable with this one. Okay, we have a short crossover. The market has moved down, so it has gone below the MA50. Stochastic is just reaching oversold. Another reason why I wouldn't take this trade is if we have a look at the entry price, we're looking at 32 pips. That's actually not too bad for a stop loss. It's not too much movement, but no, I don't feel quite comfortable with this one. I don't think it'll move that far, so I'll stay out of it, and I go back to pressing F12. Okay, it looks like we have another crossover here. MACD is very negative here because we're below the MA50. This one, let's give it a shot, hey? What I don't really like about it is that it didn't give us a smooth cross. It didn't first cross up and then come down. It looks more like the red line just touched the blue and then started coming down. But let's give this one a shot anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and add some price labels. Our entry price is going to be sometime during this candle. So I'll just mark the level there. Our stop loss will be just over here. So this will be a nice and close stop loss. Let's have a look at how many pips that is. Yeah, that's only going to be 15 pips. I'm not going to put a take profit down on this one because we're going to sit and we're going to watch and see what happens. And we go back to pressing F12. Wow. Okay, a candle this size is most likely from a news candle. But either way, it would have triggered our stop loss and we would have made those 15 pips loss. So this in effect is how we do backtesting. We really just take the basic set of rules, we scroll back into history to some random points, and we start pressing F12 and we try and watch it. And I really suggest that you mark it down. You actually put marks on there as to where you've entered and set your stop loss and take profit, because otherwise you might look back and say, oh well, no, it didn't actually trigger, or I would have made this much, or whatever the case is. But if you put things down on the chart, it gives you a bit of pressure and it gives you exact points where you would have set your stop loss and take profit, and it makes it a little bit more realistic. Nothing can replace the feeling of trading live with real money, but the closer you get to it, the better prepared you will be.